Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be doing an image transfer using your own photos. So I started off this art journal page by gluing down a photo of me as a toddler onto my art journal page using some gel medium. So I coated both the paper that I printed this out on, it's just on regular copy paper from a laser printer, and I put some gel medium on the page I was going to glue it down to as well. And I left it overnight to dry. The longer you can leave this, the better. Now, what you saw me do was just spritz the back with some water, and I'm just rubbing off the extra paper pulp. You need to be fairly gentle with this, but it is an image transfer, so it's never going to be absolutely perfect. You are going to get bits of the image rub off, and that's okay, because if you wanted it perfect you probably would have just glued down the photo in the first place. To incorporate the image into my background a little bit, I've just put some some gesso around the edge just to sort of blend it in. And then I left it to dry, and it's really important you leave it to dry for a little bit because you can see it goes cloudy again, and that just means I haven't rubbed off all the extra paper pulp that I needed to. So I'm just going back in with a wet wipe and rubbing away some of that extra paper pulp. Now, one of the things that I learnt from the very talented Leanne Jago, who is the queen of image transfers, is to paint over the top of your image with some gel medium. You could use clear gesso if you've got it, but I like gel medium to do it. The reason for that is that actually seals your image, which means I can now add paints and stenciling and all sorts over the top of this. But if it goes on the image where I don't want it to, I can wipe it away. So it just really protects your image from anything that you do to it in the future, which usually for me is a really good idea because usually I paint over it. So if you're a little bit heavy-handed like me, maybe sealing the bits that you really love of your image with some gel medium. The bits that you're not too fussed about, like for example, I didn't really paint down the bottom of where my dress was and so on because I don't mind if that gets blended into the background, but I did want to make sure that my face and around the headphones were protected. So I've just put down some acrylic paint, and then using a wet wipe I've wiped it away through a stencil. So that's called the ghosting technique. And you can see you can get some really cool effects by doing that, and gives you some brilliant texture around. So because it was an image of me, I decided I was going to use my favorite colors. I probably should have thought about, you know, what colors I was going to use a little bit more than I did, but I was just going with the flow and doing my favorite thing because it was a page about me, really. So this page was created for a challenge in the Scrapping Clearly virtual crop, and it was supposed to be a scrapbook page about scrapping a picture of yourself when you were a baby or a toddler. So I decided I'd make an art journal page of me instead because, you know, why not? It was actually quite cool because I've got a daughter around this age at the moment, so it was kind of cool seeing an image of me at that age and thinking about her at that age and what the similarities and differences were. So because this photo was taken in, it would have been 1980, I reckon. I was about 2, so obviously I've got a bit of the 70s, you know, colour scheme happening in the background because, you know, why not? And I'm using that flower stencil from Art by Mylene. I also had sitting around on the side of my desk some of these denim stars that I cut out of a previous page, so I thought they'd be quite cool to add on as a bit of a different texture. I'm also adding on this chipboard saying from Scrap FX, and it's though she be but little, she is fierce. And I thought it was a good saying to have, not necessarily for the time, but I've become fiercer as I've got older, and probably since I've become a parent actually. I'm usually very meek and mild, but I've become more protective and more not outspoken, but I'm better able to express myself than I have been through the rest of my life. So it was a good little saying to have, and I was very little there, so I thought it was a good one to add to the page. So I'm just using some regular glue to glue down my denim stars, and doing adding them in the 3 around the page. So I decided to have the last little one actually come off the edge of the page, just to sort of give a bit of flow to the page. If I hadn't had that flow off the page like that, the stars would have looked like they were floating. So this way it sort of helps ground it to the bottom of the page. I'm also going in with my Posca paint pen and just doing some scribbly outlines around the stars, just to help pop them out of the background a little bit more. And I forgot to say, but for those of you who haven't seen heat embossing before, I heat embossed my saying. So to do that, I stuck it into my Versamite pad, which is sticky ink, and then sprinkled the powder over the top, and used my heat tool to heat it until it goes shiny and the grains melt. I like to do a few coats, so I dipped it in again while it's still hot to get a second coat to just make sure it was really sort of popped out from the background. But you don't have to do that, so just one coat would be fine. Because it was a night journal page more than a scrapbook page, I decided to actually journal about that saying and about being fierce and how it made me feel, looking at the image of me as a 2-year-old and thinking about where I've become, you know, how my life has changed in those 40 years since. So it was a nice thing to do, to actually take an image of yourself and put it into my art journal. It's not something I do very often, but I think it's important to document yourself in your art journals, and this is a perfect way to do it by using your own photos, whether it be of you or your children or your family. Doing an image transfer where you get that sort of grungy look into your journal is just a really fun thing to do and really easy to accomplish. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this will help you document some things about you in your journal and make it, or obviously your journal is important to you, but make it personal to you. Until next time, bye for now.